When looking for the king of podcasts, you're at the wrong channel.
Well, excuse me!
Looking for good ideas for life? You're far from good hands.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
If you think the listener is always right, you're far from the right place.
Out of order! Even in the future, nothing works!
Hosted by a Northeasterner by birth, but a rebel by choice.
Are you threatening me?
If you want a host that floats between love and madness,
and we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight.
then play on and listen to Crazy Train Radio.
All right, guys, listen to this blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Within the gaming world, there are your general gamers, but then there are those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming. If you're one of those that enjoy the dark underbelly of gaming, we certainly got the place to send you. Scorpion Lair Games. That's right, Scorpion Lair Games is the creators of the true crime hit Killers, the card game. Let's not forget they also have Killers Clothing Company, their profiler game, and things like the 5-Minute Murder channel on YouTube. And we certainly can't forget the new book that is certainly a hit, Beyond the Headliners, True Crimes, Myths, and Legends. Make sure you visit Jeff and the Scorpion Lair Games on Facebook and everywhere today.
I'm Man Pondo, and you're listening to Crazy Train Radio. Keep tuning in, or I'll find out where you live, and I'll come and break your arms.
Hey folks, it's your least favorite host in the podcast world, Croc, Jonathan Steele. And boy, do we have a good one for you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this next guest has been known for his hardcore style of wrestling and has worked all over the place, such as IWA Mid-South, which is known for being Ian Rotten's company, CZW, Big Japan Pro Wrestling, and Juggalo Championship Wrestling, just to name a few. He's got some new stuff coming out, but let's go ahead and welcome the madman himself, Man Pondo.
Hello. Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
So, f***ing Madman Pondo. How the hell are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you, man?
No complaints on my end. Nobody fucking listens anyway when you bitch and moan.
Listening. I am listening. I'm listening.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, sir.
No
All right,
problem.
so let's get the. I don't want to call it gaga or nonsense, but we'll get the main plug out of the way.
All right.
And I'll let you go in it as much depth as you want with this. So
All right. Cool.
I like to be upfront and honest with everybody.
I was tagged in a post by a friend of the show, Ryan Huff, because you made an announcement, I believe it was last week or earlier this week, that a
Yep.
new book was done, which is
Yep.
your second. And the title of that book, because I decided to ask, I thought it'd be smart. Madman, or no, wrong book. Sorry, Xnet. I didn't drink yet, folks. Pondo versus horror icons. We'll get
Yep.
in the other book I was starting to mention as we go along here, but with this new release, what do you got? Go as far as you want with this.
Okay. So, a guy named John Cosper, he wrote a book called Backyard Brawlers and Kentucky Brawlers, excuse me, Kentucky Brawlers. And he put a piece of me. He got a little interview from me and put it in the book. And people kept telling John Cosper, like, hey, if you got access to Man Pondo, you should have him write a book because he's got interesting stories. And he kept asking me, and I kept saying no because I really didn't think nobody would care about what I had to say. But finally I said, okay, let's do it. And it's called Memoirs of a Madman. I'm very proud of it because a lot of work went into it. Embarrassing stories, wrestling, being in 2001 Maniacs, the movie. I was in a comic book for the BloodyMidgets.com. That's in there. I like to mess with scammers. That's in there. I mean, just anything, any little piece of information that I had went into 340 some odd pages of the first book. And that is called Memoirs of a Madman. And you can pick that up at Amazon.com, or you can write John Cosper yourself at visitdarkpark.com and ask him about an autograph copy. And then if you buy the book and you bring it to the wrestling show, and I have my signature crimson mask, I will take some ink off my forehead and give you the bloody thumbprint on the first page. And the reason I do that is I saw Jurassic Park, and someday when I pass away, you'll have my DNA to make your own little Madman Pondo someday. Then, so now it's been a few years since that book went out. We sold boxes and boxes of that book. I am so humbled, but shocked that many people wanted to know what I had to say. So I'm sitting in Japan 9 months, and I have a lot of downtime. And a friend of mine, Christina Harvey, she got her Facebook hacked, and her husband passed away. She had memories of that. She had family pictures. She had where she'd been to the Steelers games. There's all types of pictures and memories on her Facebook, and some piece of shit hacker out there who didn't care about anybody else but himself hacked her page, and she can not get it back. And I thought to myself how terrible that would be if that happened to me, because on my Facebook, I don't know if you've been there, it's all pictures of all the celebrities I met and memories.
Are we talking the personal page or the page I found for the professional page? Which one are we talking about?
Probably my Kevin Kennedy, Canady, Facebook page. So I was sitting in Japan. I had a bunch of downtime, so I went ahead and wrote a book. It's called, like you said, Pondo versus Horror Icons. And it is all the horror movie stars that I have met over the years, going to conventions, being in a movie, meeting them other places, but comedy clubs. But the book is, like I said, the book is self-explanatory. It's called Pondo versus the Horror Icons. It's a whole book of how I met these people, where I met these people, good experiences of meeting these people, bad experiences of meeting these people. It's going to be a full book, just like the other one, with stories of how I met them and the interactions with them, plus tons of pictures of me and all the stars I'm pretty proud of this one. So the other one, the first one, I talked into a tape recorder, and then John Cosper, he would write what I what I would
Transcribe it.
say. Yes, this one I was sitting in Japan and I wrote myself. So before I even question myself, am I an author if I didn't write the book? Well, this one makes me an author because I wrote this book. It's ready to go. Like it's written. Sayazawa, who did the cover for the first book, is doing the cover for this book as well. The first book was forwarded by Vanilla Ice, so we've also got a special guest for this one, hopefully, but I'm not going to disclose that just in case it doesn't work. But we asked a good horror icon about doing the forward for this one. So I do not have a release date for this book, but I do have a release year. It will be released in 2026. And same thing. If you want the first book or if you want to get the second book, it will be at Amazon.com or visit deadpark.com. Go talk to John Cosper about getting an autographed copy, and makes me look good when you say my name to him.
Nice. You know what's funny? A couple of things there. I know of John Cosper. I know a lot
Yeah.
of the wrestling authors. I've dealt with in some form or fashion in
Yeah.
13 years of doing this. John's one of the few guys I haven't dealt with, but know
Oh,
of
really?
his work. So I would count that as an author because sometimes guys have ghost writers and stuff, and John's a credible guy on that front.
Yeah.
So I I would count it as you're an author with the first one.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say, he's legit, because I've read his stuff and all is good there. But
That's
the
it.
funny part is I was doing a little homework throughout the day here and the week
Yeah.
leading up to this. And you said something there about being surprised that why would people want to give a shit to hear my stories or hear me talk or whatever the case is, right? When you were
Right.
saying no, no, no for the first book. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny why I got a kick out of that was because I was also listening to a second interview you did with Shane Douglas.
Yeah.
And one of the things you said during that conversation with Shane is you just want your name to be remembered.
I do.
When it comes to the wrestling sphere and all that stuff. So is that what finally got you to say, okay, I'm going to do this so you can have something in writing telling your story?
It was a big part of it, but John Cosper is a really nice guy, and probably on time 5 or 6 when he said, "Hey, let's do a book." He's such a nice guy, I said, "Okay, let's do it." I mean, who am I to deny that guy? If he thinks that I'm special enough to write a book about, who am I to say, no, I don't want to do that? So finally, I said, yes, let's do it. And it's funny you mentioning that about after I pass away, I want to be remembered. If you don't mind, I would like to tell people how I want to be remembered.
Feel free.
Okay, not too far from here, there is it used to be called the Concrete Lady. I'm not sure what it's called now, but they have a large size concrete ape painted brown, and I would want that to be my headstone. And let me tell you why. I want to be remembered. And when people's driving through the graveyard, they're all looking for the normal concrete blocks or stuff like that. But people would be able to drive through that graveyard and see that there's a big ape over there. And one, want to know what that was all about, and two, people would know where I'm at. So I want that headstone. I want that to be that big gorilla, and then on my plaque, whether it be on the gorilla's chest, at the gorilla's feet, I want a skull and crossbones on there. And the reason I want that is people will look at that skull and crossbones and be like, this guy must have really been dangerous, right? So hopefully they'll put a QVC code on there. People will be able to click on that and find out who I am and what I'm about. And I think that will keep my name alive for years and years and years. Smart, right?
That's creative. How you're thinking. Some will
Yeah.
say it's morbid and all that, but I like the creativity. So, it's funny you say that, and I didn't even think I'd go here, but fuck it, we're here. I was in LA last year, right? And my last day in town, I was doing some like visiting like celebrity galleries and stuff like that. And the one location I went is, and it's funny they were buried next to each other because one didn't draw attention to himself, where the other one did. Kind of like what you're saying with the gorilla head. And it was, people would be surprised by this, but I guess not. Is Burt Reynolds and Pee Wee Herman. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's a nice setup, very respectful and all. Pee Wee didn't want to draw attention to himself, all that. Has his grave marker, what you're talking about. Da-da-da, date of birth, all that fun shit. Next to him, complete opposite with Burt Reynolds. Has the big cowboy hat and a little headstone of, like, it looked like it was copied of him from Smokey and the Bandit. It was just complete opposite of, you know what I mean? One drawing attention, one just wanted to rest in peace specifically. So,
well, so I've been to Muhammad Ali's. I don't know if you've been to his grave, but
I haven't.
Holy shit, dude. He's got like a whole concrete prison around him, with walls.
Well, he's Muhammad Ali.
That's right. And then Colonel Sanders, he also has a bust of his head and all that. So some people want that, some people don't. I do. I want that big ape where people be driving through and go, oh, let's see what this is all about.
Right on. So on the wrestling standpoint, when would you say you remember becoming a fan? And I know you grew up towards the tail end of shows when you had let's say wrestling at the Chase out of St. Louis, and you had the end of the territory system there per se.
Right.
So what attracted your attention to the wrestling world?
So my family's very reserved. They're kind of quiet. They don't like being center of attention, which I don't know where I came from. But we would go to my great grandparents' house every Sunday for lunch and then dinner and then go home. I mean, this was an every Sunday thing. And lunch would be very quiet. Dinner, there might be, a little bit of conversation back and forth. But when Channel 7 Wrestling, Jerry the King Lawler, Bill Dundee, Sheep Herders, Moondogs,
Memphis Wrestling,
when that would come on the TV, my great grandparents would turn into something different, and there'd be like dirty motherfuckers and that son of a bitch. And me and my brother just thought that was hilarious. We thought that was so funny, and it made me a fan. Just the enjoyment of watching my grandparents just annoy the shit out of the rest of my family with their cursing, and they're like, you don't see the boys are sitting there watching that? You got to watch your language. And they would say, oh, okay, I will. And then something else would happen. And
that stupid son of a bitch.
Yeah. So, yeah, that made me a pretty huge fan. And then from childhood then, man, I just loved wrestling the whole time.
Were you one of those kids when you got hooked, you said, I'm going to do that someday, somehow? Or were they, because a lot of guys I know and girls would go, oh, that's nice, honey. You know what I mean? Pat them on the head. And, you know what I mean? That kind of deal.
So in grade school, the teacher handed out these pieces of paper, and it said, draw what you want to draw, your dream job when you grow up. And kids were drawing firemen and policemen and teachers and veterinarians and doctors. I was the only one that had a wrestling ring with two stick figures going at each other. And I remember having to ask my teacher how to spell both words, but mine was the only one that said, I want to be a professional wrestler. Which of course my teacher at that time was like, that's really not ethical. You need to uh, draw something different. But my mom, to this day, still has that piece of paper where I said I want to be a professional wrestler. So pretty much in grade school, I knew what I wanted to do.
So, and I know everything online is true, but give or take, you start training at 20 and all that stuff. And obviously, they teach you, most people would teach you the traditional way, per se. Were you,
Yeah,
well, training wise, before I move forward, was it
the
the
basics. The
old school
basics.
way where they beat the piss out of you, or how was
Yeah, it's funny. I just had not maybe a month ago. Uh, I went to a dinner with all my old alumni of where I was training, and I'm the only one still wrestling. Every one of them's out of it, but it just seemed funny to me that a bunch of them would come over and say, "Hey, Pondo, so sorry we were so rough on you," but they had no idea that they was training me to do what I am today. So I never had any ill will. Yes, I drove home with tasting my own blood and feeling my own eyes puff up and all of that, but I have no ill will over anybody, but um, yeah, it was I mean, it was different times then.
yeah,
Now there's five schools in every state. The kids can complain if they're not going over, you just didn't do that shit when I got in wrestling, and if you did, you got your ass beat. So it's not like I was doing that, but there was a code of ethics back then of we need to see if this guy really needs to be in the business. So things were rough. Things,
yeah,
got kicked in and all types of shit.
yeah, and that's what I mean in the old school. It wasn't they were trying to kill you, but they were trying to see if you were able to.
Yes. And of
You know
course,
what I'm saying with that.
yeah, and of course, week after week, I would show up every Sunday, and they'd be like, and after a while, they just got tired of beating on me, I think.
Yeah. Was it those guys that would the people training you smarten you up, or was it once you started working?
Yeah, yes, it was them that smartened me up, but it took a while. They would man, I think this is the biggest waste of a wrestling school, but they would start out with calisthenics, which I think is just a way to waste time until you finally get in the ring. But I wasn't interested in calisthenics. I wanted to learn to wrestle.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of it to begin with. Crunches, squats, all this shit that I just hated. But I would do it because I wanted to show these guys that I wanted to be a professional wrestler. And then they would get into the ring and, they'd kick me harder than what I should have been. They'd slam me harder than what I should be, whatever. But every Sunday, when I got done, I would thank everybody for the training, go home, come back the very next Sunday. Hey, guys, how's it going? And start this shit all over again. So after a while, I think I pretty well proved to him, yeah, that guy wants to be
All
a
right, this
wrestler.
kid's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
So obviously, like I said, we're talking tail end of the territories, all that stuff. The business was
Yeah.
changing 89, 90, 91
Yeah.
per se. But you get to a point, and I'm curious to know that it's like, I want to make a mark. This is Kevin who becomes Pondo going, hey, you know what? I want to leave a mark and kind of what we were talking about earlier. But
Yeah.
I need a niche or something to stand out more. So, and you
Mm-hmm.
apparently, like I said, the internet is true. Some of your wrestling buddies and such, you saw watching things like deathmatch and stuff on VHS. When did
Yes.
that click for you? Because that's what you're mostly known for, the deathmatch stuff and all. But
Yes.
when did it click for you to say, hey, I want to try to go this direction to make my name?
So do Do you remember when WWE had pay-per-views every Sunday called In Your House?
Yes. That
So
was the age
me,
I grew up on, so.
yeah. So me, those were expensive. Those were like 60, $75 every Sunday. So me and a whole bunch of my friends, I had my own house. Me and my wife at the time, we had our own house. Me and a whole bunch of my friends would all put our money together and we would order those pay-per-views. But
Yeah.
after a while I got to noticing, we didn't watch the whole pay-per-view, not every match was a main event on there. So
Hmm.
we'd be talking back and forth, or we'd be eating pizza, or uh, some of them would go outside and smoke. But after those pay-per-views, my friends always said, "Hey, Pondo, put in one of them bloody tapes." They didn't even have a name of death match then. They had the name of bloody tapes, and I would put one in, and I would watch all my friends' eyes just focus in on that TV screen, and I'm like, "This is it. This is what I can do." So uh, that's the route I went. And plus, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. So I told myself, "This is what I can do," and that's exactly what I went out and did.
And I'm gonna guess because of the time frame we're talking about, early '90s and such, would that have been like tapes you would have seen? Because tape trading was a big thing back then, because there wasn't the internet and
Yeah,
everything else like that.
and I was a big
Would
tape
these been
trader.
tapes from like Japan and stuff?
Japan and Puerto Rico. Death
Okay.
matches
Yep.
started in Puerto Rico. People think they started in Japan. They didn't. They started in Puerto Rico, and
Carlos
then
Colon, all right.
no, Victor Quiones. Victor
Okay.
Quiones from Puerto Rico took it to Japan, and of course the Japanese tapes started circulating faster than the Puerto Rico tapes. But it started in Puerto Rico, but got more famous in Japan.
So, and I'm sorry I'm talking so inside baseball, but I know the horses left the barn per se. But I'm curious to know, with when it comes to hardcore or death match and all these different styles, because obviously there have been groups that have come along and such, IWA and CZW and just all these groups. Juggalo does some.
Yeah.
Is there a proper technique to the death match or hardcore style?
So I have watched death matches today, and it's all about swinging, throwing. Uh, I'm a firm believer. People even has told me that there's an art form to Madman Pondo's death matches. I think doing moves through things is way more impactful. So you can swing and hit somebody in the head with a light tube, get a big pop on number one. You can swing and hit a light tube on number two, you get a smaller pop. Three, four, 100, nobody gives a shit
It
anymore.
just weans itself down, yeah.
Yeah. So if you do moves through those things, different moves through those light tubes, it's ha, 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 it's just, that's the way I think about it though. But today's matches are a lot different than back when I was doing them. I mean, I still
It,
am doing them, but
but you still try to fabricate the story to what
I
you're trying to
do.
do in the ring.
Exactly. I'll tell you a story. 2 or 3 years ago for New Year's, I wrestled Matt Tremont at GCW in a light tube
Yes.
death match. And I told Matt, I said, let's do something different. Let's go out there. Let's not swing a tube. Let's not throw a tube. Let's do moves through tubes. And he was kind of confused on that. But after we got done on the internet, all these people kept talking about how innovative the match between me and Matt Tremont was. It wasn't innovative at all. We just didn't do the normal. So people looked at that like, holy shit, they did this, they did this. We gave them more to talk about than just swinging or throwing light tubes at each other.
Absolutely. Because when I was asking that question, I think about, I forget who told me the story, Oh, God. Yeah, because that was so many. And Matt's from my neck of the woods. So, Matt, if you hear this, how you doing, buddy? Never met you, but hear a
Shout
lot of
out to
positive
me.
things about you.
Hell yeah.
Much respect, Matt, for what you do. But anyway, I was going to say, it might have been somebody like a Mick Foley that told me, he hasn't been on the show, but in conversation, he would talk
Yeah.
about his time in like ECW per se and
Yeah.
how tough it would be because that was in America, the birth of hardcore, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it'd be the first match you'd have, bang, 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 yeah, whatever. The next, you have a tables match in the next one. Then you might include the tap a death match with the glass on it that the Rottens would do. I mean, everybody would be up in their scale. So by the
Yes.
time you got to the second semi-main event or the main event, it'd be like, what are we gonna do to get our crowd? You know what I mean? Like, the guys would be going, what in the hell am I gonna do to be able to elicit a reaction for what we're doing in the ring, whether it was hardcore or not. So, did you ever kind of face that kind of thing? That it's like, well, these guys did this guy did. What the hell are we gonna do to pique interest?
No, I'm not bragging on myself, but I always think about things in a different way. Did you ever see the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe?
Yeah, of course.
One of the smartest sentences in that movie. It wasn't even Russell Crowe. It was the guy who was keeping him or training him, whatever. Win the crowd, win the game. That's in that movie. That is
I like that.
so true to professional wrestling. If you win the crowd, you win the game. So I always, whether it be a promo, whether it be some kind of crazy bump, whether it be some kind of finish, that's the first thing that I put in my mind. Will the crowd pop for this? And so far, I think I've been pretty successful on that.
You wouldn't be working if you weren't successful at it because people wouldn't book you, all that fun stuff,
Right.
So, is it true that you, speaking of movies, you you borrowed the gimmick, let's say, from Pondo Sinatra from Party Animal, then the other side of things from Abby, the Madman?
Yes. So when you hear him announce Madman Pondo, they're actually saying Crazy Virgin. But yes, I love that movie, The Party Animal. But like I said, me and a bunch of friends, we would go to my house and watch VHS tapes, and one of them we got a hold of was The Party Animal. Well, Pondo Sinatra is a character in a movie called The Party Animal who was an 11-year college student who never got laid. So my friends started calling me Pondo, which the fight was on, I mean, it was an insult, but it's either get used to the name or fight all the time. So I said, to hell with it. I got used to the name. And then the wrestlers that I was always going to watch, the Bruiser Brodies, the Sheiks, the Abdullah the Butchers, the Moondogs, the Sheepherders. It was always the crazy guys. Mm-hmm. So that's where I came up with
all
the
legends there, by the way, who you mentioned.
Yeah. So that's where the name come from, Madman Pondo.
Speaking of legends, I'll get there in a second, but who were some of your favorites? Would it have been guys like a Brody, which he was a traditional wrestler, but he got extreme if need be, especially over Japan? Or was it guys like Abby and Funker? And who would you say influenced you from the style you were going with, the death match and all?
So I'm one of the lucky ones because of Wrestling the Chase. I got to watch Bruiser Brody wrestle a lot. Today, kids who say they're fans of Bruiser Brody, they have watched videotapes or YouTube, but I actually got to see Bruiser Brody on a few occasions. And when Abdullah would come to the area, I even went to a wrestling match in Centralia, Illinois. That was the main event was Bruiser Brody versus Abdullah the Butcher. And I'm here to tell you that as far as influences goes, I don't do it so much anymore, but back in the day with all the crazy faces and all that, that was sheep herder stuff. That was uh, Butch and Luke, not that silly bushwhacker shit, but
No, I know who you're talking when they were the sheep herders and just
yeah, that's a lot of influence there. Of course, bleeding every match, that would be an Abdullah.
Mhm.
I loved Bruiser Brody, but there's nothing I ever did that to imitate Bruiser Brody. But of course, I got to see Terry Funk at WCW. Just I got to see the Freebirds at WCCW. I mean, there was just so many influences over the years, but I normally give my biggest influences to the sheep herders.
okay. Well, you know what it makes sense, but I chuckled when they said that. Somebody asked, it may have been Luke because he's still around. God bless him. He was booking for
Yeah.
a long time in Puerto Rico, all that stuff. Still makes
He
appearances.
just did the Rikishi stink face to somebody I saw on the internet.
But somebody asked him, I don't know if it's an interview or a fan, just pause. I can't remember and pinpoint where it was, but they had to ask him because same way they were familiar with the sheep herders. They with hardcore before hardcore became popular,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Somebody asked him, he goes, "So why would you go from doing this to the bushwhacker thing?" Which I grew up on the bushwhackers. I was born in '84. That style, the goofy, da da da,
Yeah.
right? But they
Yeah.
had asked, he goes, simple, mate, the money.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't hate on it. And,
No,
they were the sheep herders in WCW, but they was never main eventers. They was always
yeah,
mid carders doing that. Bushwhackers, they could have been a main event at WWE. I'm not sure if they was or not, but the kids
not
loved
really.
them.
Yeah, the merchandise and everything, how
Yeah.
this business was structured. I cannot.
Yeah.
He goes, think about it. Why would I go and beat myself up every night like we were as the sheep herders and get half the money?
That's right.
I want to put my kids through college.
I
You know
hear
what I
you.
mean? Like, but it's funny. And you said about Brody there, and I unfortunately I'm the of that generation that I'm a Brody fan from everything I've seen, but he had passed away with that Puerto Rico episode
Yeah.
when I was a little kid. So it's like I didn't have the opportunity to see him in person.
Right.
You mentioned, but we mentioned there, and oh God, he was so much fun to deal with it. I dealt with him in the early 2000s for several years, coming out of high school and stuff. Terry Funk,
Yeah. What a
and
guy, right?
oh, he's a trip. And one of my co-hosts couldn't be here today because I asked him. I said, "Hey," told him I was going to be talking to you and all that stuff, and he goes, "Unfortunately, I'm going to something right after work, but I'd love to know what ticks in his Pondo's mind." But Brian, my co-host, who has a great wrestling book out, dealt with Terry towards the end of his life and into his passing. So, not that we all didn't take it, Terry's death and what happened,
Yeah.
rough, but Terry was a character.
He is the man. He is the guy who evolved with wrestling from the time he started all the way to the end.
Oh, he was when you asked him questions and stuff, and the one or two independents he would consistently work for in the Philly area that I
Yeah.
was associated with.
Yeah.
And some will say, "Oh, he's just a smart mark," or "He's this or that," talking about me. But I loved asking the vets question, even though I wasn't going to get into the business from an
Yeah, exactly.
in-ring standpoint. But I still went to, the psychology and pick the brain and all that stuff. I would say Terry was, from what I know, 5, 10 years ahead of everybody else with his
I
thinking.
believe
Would you
so.
agree with that?
I think that's a safe assumption. Yeah.
That he
And
was,
and going back to what you just said, we're all marks, so we wouldn't be in this business. So um, I don't believe in that mark word. Like I will ask anybody I want to take a picture with me. I don't care about that shit. One thing I don't like is the light handshake. what that
the old
handshake,
school.
what that used to be was showing
safe,
other
brother.
wrestlers that you're a wrestler, but nobody has to do that anymore. So when they try to give me that light handshake, I scoop that hand in and shake them properly. I mean,
Shake like
yeah,
an
but
adult, damn it.
that's right. But
If I'm gonna
Terry
shake
Funk,
your hand, Pondo, I'm shaking your hand. Like, come on,
that's right,
let's.
please. But Terry Funk was he was an influence to. So Violent J asked me one time because he's put me versus a lot of stars at JCW, and he said, "Pondo, who was your favorite guy that we put you versus?" And I said, "Bar none, Terry Funk." And he said, "Well, we put you versus Great Muta. He wasn't your favorite." And I said, "Don't get me wrong, wrestling Great Muta is a big, big honor and a dream to a lot of people, especially since he can't wrestle anymore. But for every deathmatch hardcore guy, Terry Funk would be on. Terry Funk and Cactus Jack would be on that list, and
Yeah.
Terry Funk was mine."
And I'm sure Brian won't mind me telling this story. He tells it on some of the live streams we do and stuff, movie wise and all. But like I said, he dealt with Terry for his book and kept in touch until Terry's passing. And he would call even when Terry was in rough shape and really couldn't remember much. But he'd have these sprinkles of hope, I'll say, where they would kick in. And I heard you talk to him till almost the end as well, so you know what I'm talking about.
I would call after his wife died, like his health just went so far down so fast.
Yeah, it just when Vicky,
he wound up in a home, and I'd just be on these road trips, and I'd be like, you know what? I'll just give Terry a call. He never talked for very long, but I at least got to talk to him.
So Terry called Brian because he was sick for a few days, down and out, right? So he didn't hear from Brian. So Terry picks up the phone, calls him, goes, I don't know if he was still at the house or in this nursing home. He goes, hey, Brian, I want to check on you, all that stuff. Hey, is Sarah there? His living girlfriend, practically his wife. He goes, yeah. Why? What's up, Terry? Can you put me on speaker? I want to say hello. Okay, sure. Hook, line, sinker. Hey, Sarah, it's Terry. Run, Sarah, run. Like he was ribbing till the end, like.
Yeah.
But that was Terry being Terry.
Yeah, good dude,
all right.
man.
Yeah, God bless him. He was one of the best. Not only as a person, but in the ring.
That's right.
All right, so what is this I've heard about? Because I didn't see too much information, but I'm sure it's in the first book. With it, there was something with Joe LeDuc.
Oh, Joe LeDuc. So, like I said, I was always going to watch the really crazy people. Yeah. And for Memphis wrestling, where are you from again?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. So here in this area, it went Monday was the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee.
That was the big show of the week.
Yeah. Tuesday was Louisville Gardens. But Wednesday was Evansville Coliseum. That's where I would go. And I was leaving the Coliseum one time, and I saw Joe LeDuc across the street just hanging out in the parking lot. And I'm like, holy shit, this never happens. So I'm walking across the street to meet Joe LeDuc, and a car drives behind me and yells out, Joe LeDuc's a faggot. Well, I was even looking at that car like, I can't believe they just said that, right? So I get over to Joe LeDuc, and I said,
who's he looking at? You, right?
Yeah. So I said, Mr. LeDuc, and I went to shake his hand, and he grabbed my hand and he squeezed it so hard, like I thought my hand was going to break. And then he palms me, and I was wearing glasses at the time, off the concrete, telling me not to cuss around his friends. But I looked over on the hood of his car, and there's like 8 or 9 empty beer bottles. So then I understood what was going on. But yeah, man, I got my ass beat by Joe LeDuc at 16 years old. And then I went back to school the next day, and a bunch of my friends that had went to that as well, they had told everybody what happened. And while I'm walking through the hallways, everybody's saying, I heard you went toe-to-toe with Joe LeDuc. I'm like, you damn right I did. No, not really.
Gave you a little street cred in school.
Yeah, toe to toe me, and he was kicking me in the face. That's
Yeah, so obviously that is pretty interesting and gives you credibility for sure that time period with Joe LeDuc. But there
right.
was this little film called 2001 Maniacs, which is
Yeah,
one I love. And
yeah.
Tim Sullivan directed that. You were one of the townsfolk. What brought you to the movie world?
So there was two guys doing special effects for that movie who was also filming the JCW shows at that time, and I always had a horror movie T-shirt on. And them guys being Hollywood guys and me loving movies, we always got along. We always talked about movies. And finally, they asked me if I wanted to be in a horror movie, and I was like, "Of course, I want to be in a horror movie." Um, they said they would get a hold of me as soon as they got it all planned out. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, time went by, and after a while, you just forget all about it. But finally, they gave me a call and said, "Hey, we need you in Atlanta at this day, da 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 da." Not Atlanta, but in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even know Robert Englund was in this movie until I got there. And then Travis Tritt was in the movie. Eli Roth was in the movie. Um,
Lynn Shay was in there.
Lynn Shay, just all types of people. And, I think for being in any horror movie lover's dream, being its first horror movie and showing up on the cover of the Blu-ray next to Robert Englund's left ear, and getting my own 5 to 7 second spot being the blacksmith in that movie. Perfect. That was a perfect segue into horror movies.
Now, because I'm a horror movie lover, and like I said, I'm going to see him in a few weeks again,
Tell,
which
tell, tell him Pondo said hi. He might treat you different.
will do. But was did you geek out much with them? Seeing all these different people like an Eli Roth and Robert and Lynn and all these.
On Robert England, I sat with him every day and ate a meal and listened to him talk and listened to his stories. I loved every minute of
He,
that. Uh, uh, Eli Roth, I didn't know that much about. I knew that he had directed Cabin Fever at that time. Lynn
yes.
Shay, I was so impressed with because she was the landlady on Kingpin. I was really happy that I got, uh, Travis Tritt. I'm not that much of a country listener, but it was cool that he was around. Yeah, man, I would say I geeked out on a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Lynn is a trip. And I'll tell you the story later about from the one episode I did with her. From something about Mary, she had, long story short, she had the prosthetic from her when they showed her breasts and stuff. When she
Yeah.
was the suntan lady, whatever she was called, or whatever her character was. She kept that and put that in a shadow box.
Oh yeah.
Funniest thing I ever saw. It was great. But have you done a lot of movies since then, or
No, I would love to. A guy named Travis Bowen put me in a movie called Shadows in the Woods, and I showed up in the movie Spun in a little wrestling scene. They took some of the JCW matches and put them in that. But other than that, no, I haven't done. I mean, if you think about it, I did Jerry Springer twice, if that counts.
and you caught his attention because of a well, try this in English. You caught his attention because of a cable show you were doing, correct?
No, a guy named Ace Craft is the one who hooked me up with that. They asked him if he knew any crazy people, and of course, I was his first thought. So that's how I got to be a part of the Jerry Springer show.
Okay, I heard it was from Skull Talk, but that or Skull Tank, but that's interesting.
Skull Top. I love Skull Top, but no, that wasn't. But I did record a few episodes from the Jerry Springer show, finding different strippers and chicks who didn't mind getting naked.
No, I'm sure that wasn't hard to do at that time period with Springer and all.
Exactly.
You mentioned you're still out there shows and bumping around and all that fun stuff. What's the motivation to keep doing what you're doing?
Exactly what we talked about before. I have this big fear of being forgotten after I pass away. And I think if I just keep doing things, keep in people's mind, might not last forever, but it'll last a long time in people's hearts and souls, that Man Pondo just kept on going.
Absolutely. Is there anything on the deathmatch scene that you haven't done that you want to do? Or is on the opposite, is there stuff you've been asked to do that you're like, that's a no-go for me?
Well, the no-go part, I will never do pencils ever again. And I never wanted to do razor wire because I'm not stupid. Like, I know what razors are going to do to you. And as far as things that I still want to do, I want to keep going to different countries. I've been to Canada, Japan, Germany, England, Australia, and Mexico. I wanna take Madman Pondo to other countries. France, Italy, Scotland, Iraq. I don't care. I just want that persona of Madman Pondo went to all these different countries. I think that'd be really cool.
Well, as we put a bow on things, do you want to mention the books again? Where can they find them? Amazon, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I know the second one isn't out yet, but
second one's not out yet. But if you want to go ahead and get the first one, it is Amazon.com, or you can talk to John Cosper at visitdeadpark.com. And here is my Facebook. My Facebook is Kevin Canady, Canady. But if you put Pondo after that, my page would poke right up. And then my Instagram is Madman Pondo with the last O being a 0. After you read the books, go ahead and write me. Give me a review. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. That way, book number 3, I can do something different or do more of what you did like. And also with the Facebook and the Instagram, I sell 8x10s, and I have I will autograph posters that come from Japan. Just write me and ask me to send pictures, and I'll see if we can't do business together.
absolutely. Pondo, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you for letting me get the book out there.
All right. Talk to you soon. Hey folks, looking for the ultimate destination for the nerd enthusiasts and collectors? Well, we found the spot for you. Nerds Nest Collectibles is a haven for nerds, geeks, and fans alike, as they have many different products and certainly more to come. Make sure you go ahead and visit them at nerdsnestcollectibles.com. Check them out.
Hey, this is April Hunter, and you are listening to Crazy Train Radio. Woo woo!